There's no escape.
Yo! Welcome to another Untimely review. This time we're going with another classic from before I was born, Akira, which means my 4 years of Japanese won't have been a complete waste of time. This recommendation comes from the homie Takune. He makes dope videos about video games I've never heard of before, and he asked for this one 3 months ago. So, update. It's actually been 4 months, now. So, you know, these things take time. Not that long, I'll be honest, it doesn't. But, you know, we're here now, and that's all that matters. So, yeah. Back to the show. But with all that said, I've still got 2 quick disclaimers. So, here's a list of all the anime I've seen. And here's a list of all the anime I've actually finished. All of that was to say that I don't know enough to talk about anime in general, and will most likely not know what I'm going to be talking about, but I'll probably have fun.
I hope so.
And the second disclaimer is that I watched the dub of this. I'm not getting into a sub versus dub debate because it's usually very dumb, but after looking for this movie through the legal channels, I found out that there's multiple versions of the English dub, and I watched the 2001 version. So major spoilers for anime Blade Runner or something, I guess. The movie opens on the day that the movie opened in real life, which is just a great way to intro, really gets you immersed, and then immediately, Tokyo blows up.
That's not good.
Then we pick up in 2019, after World War III in Neo Tokyo, and we get our title. Glad that didn't end up happening, even though we were real close. Oh no. Picking up in a bar, this dude can't drink properly when startled, nobody helps this lady who obviously doesn't like her present situation, and this guy gets this guy to go fight some other unnamed guys. And on the way, we get introduced to Tetsuo, the little brother of the gang. Big fan of capes, and one of anime's worst hairlines. We get some pretty great establishing shots of the city, and then it's full motorcycle combat, baby. Dudes are getting smacked with pipes. We get one of the most iconic shots that I've ever seen in slowed and reverb songs.
In a crib with a shirt and no pants, Donald Duck.
And then here comes some cops to ruin a little illegal gang warfare in the streets. What are you doing? Then we pick up with this guy who shoots 2 dogs and traumatizes this kid, and we see a riot in the streets about new tax legislation. The dog murderer gets gunned down, and the little skeleton boy he was with screams, causing glass to shatter and parts of buildings to collapse, but before we find out what happens,
Vanished.
we cut back between the riot and some good old gang violence, and then because Skull Kid can just teleport, Tetsuo gets into an accident trying to avoid him. When the rest of the gang get there, they try to stop the kid, but then the OG boss baby comes with a military unit to get that kid. The gang gets sent to jail, and we get introduced to Kaneda, resident cool guy, a son of anarchy, and loves maple syrup. But before the gang gets released, Kaneda, being the horned up teenager that he is, sees a girl and gets the police to release her with them. She dips out without giving Kaneda her name, we pick up seeing Tetsuo getting researched, and we get introduced to the Colonel, a stone cold Steve Austin fan, has a teddy bear named Major, and likes to wind down with a nice cup of tea and going over war crimes. After that, we get some vague exposition on some numbers, power, and what or who Akira is. We get some good old-fashioned physical disciplinary actions at Kaneda and his friend's school, and we see that Tetsuo escaped and went to find a girl named Kaori. She deserves better. Like, a whole lot better. After a little bit, Tetsuo and Kaori steal Kaneda's bike, but because Kaneda's bike is like the most recognizable one, some rival gang attacks them. But Kaneda, being the dopest dude ever, pulls this move off and stops one of the guys. Tetsuo is starting to have hallucinations caused by whatever the Colonel and his team were doing, then they come to take him again and leave Kaneda and his friends in the road. Later, Kaneda and the boy see a terrorist attack and Kaneda notices that the girl from earlier is there too. He chases her, is responsible for getting a dude's face shot off, and they run away together. On Tetsuo's side, he's having nightmares.
I don't feel so good.
This little girl named Kyoko is prophesizing about the return of Akira, and we get a little more insight into the Colonel. On Kaneda and the unnamed girl's side, Kaneda is still trying his hardest to smash even after being in the sewer and watching a man die, and of course, every time I want to write that someone is unnamed, we learn their name in that exact scene, so here's K. Gets used almost exclusively as a plot device, and she also deserves just so much better. And then there's also this guy, Ryu. He doesn't really do much in this to get a card though, so we're moving on. There's some exposition, a parliament meeting, that's just a bunch of yelling, so very on point. And we see Tetsuo having that 3 a.m. thirstiness. And some wild, presently unexplainable stuff happens, and the movie takes a very drastic shift. Kaneda, Kei, and Ryu are trying to infiltrate the building that Tetsuo is being held in. A dude in one of those speeders from Star Wars attacks them with the mind transfer jutsu sound effect. Wait, this came out first. So really, that just means Naruto took that sound effect. That's fine, whatever. Kaneda takes out 2 dudes pretty much by accident. Tetsuo gets into a mind power fight with some little kids, and then Kaneda and Kei come in to rescue Tetsuo, but he's gone a little cuckoo for, I don't know, power puffs? Let me do that one again. Kaneda and Kei come in to rescue Tetsuo, but his power's
Over 9,000!
No, that's been done to death. Ah, got it. Tetsuo then goes to where Akira is. The colonel is stripped of his rank and is supposed to be arrested, but then he just orders the messenger to get shot. And there's literally an idiom about this, but his men just go along with him and commit treason. Because of reasons. Tetsuo is really getting into his supervillain vibe, and Kei tells Kaneda what Akira is. TLDR, Akira is the energy of life. It's in everything. Akira is God.
Jesus is the one. Yes, he is.
Kaneda then finds out that Tetsuo killed their friend Yamagata. Kei gets taken away by the spooky ghost kids, and we find out that the group that Ryu and Kei worked for were a part of the government and that everything was actually an inside job. Ryu gets shot, Tetsuo goes on a warpath to find Akira, but not before he puts on this snazzy cape. When he gets there, Kei, who's being controlled by that little girl Kyoko, is there to try and stop him. She's not very good at it though, and Tetsuo finds out that Akira has been dead this whole time and that the place he went to only has his organs. While all that's going on, Kaneda has been on Tetsuo's tail to confront him. Once he gets there, Kaneda manages to get a couple hits on him, but since the gun's battery dies, it looks like it's all over for him. Until we find out that the colonel ordered an orbital strike, like a kill streak, on Tetsuo and Kaneda's location twice. Tired of being hit by Space Colony Arc's weapon, Tetsuo flies into low orbit and makes it fire randomly below. All with one arm now, by the way. Once that's taken care of, Tetsuo makes himself a nice robo arm with kung fu grip and hides out. The next time we see him, Kaori has somehow gotten to him and tries to help him, but I don't know, man, his tentacle powers activate, I guess, and he almost kills or absorbs the colonel, but Kaneda gets a shot on him to stop him. Then this absolute gross shit happens, which is the reason why I never watched this movie initially, because I had seen part of this and was like, oh, no, I'm cool, no thank you. The 3 ghost kids get Akira to reconstitute himself. All 4 of them stop Tetsuo and get Kaneda to safety, but just like in the intro, Tokyo is devastated. And the movie ends with Tetsuo's disembodied voice proclaiming,
I am Tetsuo.
Okay, now that the story's out of the way, what did I think? First, let me just say that recommendations have hit a new high, because out of all the movies that I reviewed for this channel, this is by far the best one, and honestly, it's not even close to me. This movie has everything that I need. It's got a cool setting, it's got interesting characters, it looks amazing, and it's even got some wild off-the-wall things to constantly keep me engaged. And there's just so many little cool moments in this movie, like anytime you hear this music, it's just dope to me. I had always heard that this movie was a classic, and I always thought that it was just something that anime fans latched onto, like Evangelion or Cowboy Bebop, but I can completely understand why this why this film is held in such a high regard. Are there 2 times where I'm like, oh, that's unnecessary to show and gross? Yes. However, part of me understands that it's supposed to show how bad the gang life and underbelly of Neo Tokyo is. It was actually much harder than usual to even write this part of the script, because really all I have to say is that this shit is fire and you should go watch it, because there's a different experience from watching this video and actually watching the movie. Usually that's not an issue, especially with how I try to recap things, but there's so many moments of quiet that I skipped over to keep the pace of the video, but I fully believe that they add a lot to the experience of watching this. I mean, just with the voice acting alone, this movie is a classic. The movie's got Tai from Digimon, Lelouch from Code Geass, Chi-Chi and Bulma from DB Super, Kankuro from Naruto, Lord Zed from OG Power Rangers, and Jelly motherfucking Jiggler from Boba Boba Bo Boba Boba Bo. But even with all that talent, without a good story, it wouldn't have mattered, and I think that this movie delivers. Sure, it's a story about the little guy who always gets picked on, who then gets incredible power and takes it out on others, and because we really don't get too much time with Tetsuo and the others before his transformation, it's a little jarring to me how much he falls, but it's also because he's having his mind destroyed, so I get it. Man, no wonder this dude turned evil. Look at this man hairline. Jesus Christ. I also really like the little interactions between the Colonel and the kids because it shows that he genuinely cares about them and doesn't just view them as weapons or objects. Although, even after spending some time thinking about it, I'm still not completely sure how I feel about Tetsuo and Kanada's relationship though. There's obviously some layers to their relationship because one moment Kaneda is for sure trying to kill Tetsuo to avenge their friend and is way past trying to talk him down, but then Kaneda attempts to help and save Tetsuo when he's gross and pink like Mr. Krabs. I know that the manga goes in a different direction than this and probably has a little bit more nuance, but also considering that Kaneda is like 14, I'm not really expecting him to be thinking past the moment. And with a movie like this, there's always going to be theories about what things mean, and I'm sure that there's a more well thought out and concrete theory, but I wanted to share what I was thinking about watching it because I figured it'd be disingenuous to just look it up and then regurgitate it. So at first, I thought that Akira was another analogy for the atom bomb in a similar way that Godzilla is. Especially with the way that the Colonel kept pushing to be able to control it, and how part of the reason that Tetsuo became unstable was the scientists being more interested in what he could do with Tetsuo instead of asking if what he was doing was right or would be worth it. But then I thought that because Akira and Tetsuo only destroy Tokyo and are Japanese in origin, that it must be something else. It could be that Akira and Tetsuo are still analogies for nuclear warfare and are responses to what happened at the end of World War II, but I'm still not 100% on that. But any movie that makes me think about it even days afterwards are always worth it to me. But really everything about this movie is honestly amazing. From the animation, especially in the beginning with the light after images, to the sound design, everything is crafted to fit the story and immerse you in it, and I haven't really experienced anything like this before. Is this movie better than the Digimon movie though? Well, I mean, I don't know if I could go that far. But aside from that masterpiece, there aren't too many other movies that I would put above this one. I already said it, but this is a movie that you should go see, even if you're like me and not really that big into anime. I don't think that this movie relies too much on anime tropes that I've heard or seen, and completely stands on its own as just a great piece of art. Now, I'm feeling like I might actually have to say that I like anime now.
Hentai too.
But let me know what you think. Was the review as transcendent an experience as this movie was for me, or did it leave you feeling gross and possibly sticky like Tetsuo at the end of the movie? Let me know in the comment section below, mayhaps like and subscribe, and thanks for watching.